Okay. It sounds good. We live, but it sounds good to me. Guys, in the chat room, press one if you hear an echo. Press one if you hear echo, because I don't hear an echo, but we want to make sure you guys get the transmission. I'm sorry. But everyone, we are live this Friday evening, Dynasty Mirror Search for Guru. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much for joining us. As we always do before we get started, we just want to thank you all for the support. It really means a lot. We are approaching 100,000 subscribers. And once we get to 100K, I have a special gift for you all. Again, I have a special gift for you all well, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. I'm going to hold a drawing, a raffle. So one of you out of the 100,000, I have a nice bag from a black designer. His name is Tomlini. So he makes these nice alligator and snakeskin bags. In fact, I'm gonna go grab it here in a second, and I'll let you guys take a look at it. So one of you, I'll find a way where we can do like a raffle where you guys can enter, and then I will give away the bag, and just that'd be my token of appreciation for getting to 100,000. Guys, make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. Make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. While you're there, please join the email list so you guys could keep up, stay in touch, and staying in the now in regards to what's going on with the brand. Also, fundraiser, guys. We're still holding the fundraiser for the Chuck Brammer School in Sierra Leone. Go to africapersonified.org to donate. In fact, let me put the link in the chat room. africapersonified.org. That's a nonprofit. So guys, please go there, donate. So the goal is, so far we've raised $1,000. We're about 4K away. And what we want to do, we want to build a computer lab there. It'll be the first of its kind at a school in Bo. So we want to build the structure, and the structure is going to cost around 5 racks. And then we'll add to it as we can. So again, africapersonified.org. Go there to donate. That's the nonprofit. We are a 501c3. So thank you so much. And the goal is to have the money raised by mid-April. We have the tour to Sierra Leone, which is going to be April 20th through the 29th. Again, the tour to Sierra Leone, which is April 20th through the 29th. So if you're interested in joining us, hit me up. Go to dynastymirror.com and send me a message. Without further ado, we have brother Ebube Okoli on with us, and we're going to be discussing, this recent Nigeria cryptocurrency, I guess, misunderstanding. It seems like it's a misunderstanding now. Once I heard certain senators get up and speak, and certain people who deal with the monetary policy in Nigeria, it's like it was a misunderstanding. So they're backtracking now in regards to the ban. And then also too, Kenya has I think Bitcoin is going to be a reserve for Kenya. They're going to use it as a reserve. So now, Brother Ebube is, when it comes to monetary and fiscal policy, he's the expert. So, we're going to let Brother Ebube do his thing. And guys, make sure you guys go to Up Close and Center, Brother Ebube's page. Make sure you guys go and subscribe. I'll put the link in the chat room. Brother Ebube. Okay, never actually banned crypto in the first place, but they made it pretty. Well, Ebube, go ahead and break it down. You can do it better. You're the expert at this, not me.
Well, I'll just do a brief introduction. My name is Ebube Okoli. Sounds like there's a light. Let me on and off my.
Yeah, on your end a little bit. I did hear it.
Yeah, let me mute the mic and see if that fits. All right, how's that sound?
That's fine. Okay, I'll just keep going.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's technology, it has issues, but all in all, we keep moving. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Ebube Okoli. I'm a Nigerian-born, American-trained attorney and geopolitical analyst. I'm also the host of Up Close and Center. If you haven't been to Up Close and Center, make sure you go over. I do short documentaries, jam-packed with a lot of useful information. So go ahead and go to Up Close and Center and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Now, Dinus, this topic is a topic we could be here for hours because there's a lot of moving parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly gloss over a lot of different things. So first, we talked about Kenya, we talked about Nigeria, and just generally cryptocurrencies in Africa. But we'll start with Nigeria, and we'll start with 2017.
And I apologize. Kenya has voted. I guess they're going to use Bitcoin as a reserve currency, from my understanding. But go ahead.
In regards to Nigeria and the current ban, is what we'll call it. This actually started in 2017 when the central bank put out an advisory letter advising against virtual currencies. It didn't actually say cryptocurrencies, but at the bottom of the letter, they basically spelled it out: Bitcoin, Litecoin, et cetera, et cetera. So they warned against it, and they said that the reasons that they were warning against virtual currencies were due to the fact that they could be used to fund terrorism as well as for money laundering.
You can do that with cash, though. I mean, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My only question is that, you can do that with hard currencies as well.
Right. So you can do that with cash.
You can do that with cash. That's not necessarily but there's a deeper issue there, too. And we'll get into that in just a second, but you have to remember that they're a central bank, right? And the nature of the peer-to-peer network means there's they're
cut out. Yeah.
Cutting out the middleman. What central bank is going to be in favor of reducing their role in where they've set themselves up to be? But in regards to cryptocurrencies in Africa, part of the reason that they really gained popularity, let's focus in on Nigeria, for example. In the last 4 to 6 months of 2020, there were $200 million worth of transactions.
Wow.
So that's a lot. And part of the reason that happened is because you have to remember with certain currencies, they're locked by geography. Now you have to follow the policies and the mandates of that certain geography or that area that people call a country or a nation or a state. And you have to follow and be subject to the dictates of the central bank in that particular area. So, for example, if you hold a currency and you notice that it's been devalued twice in 1 year, like, for example, the Naira has, many people chose. And you have to remember the demographics of Nigeria as well. The demographics of Nigeria are 80% of Nigerians, if you will, are under the age of 35. And about 74% of them are under the age of 25. And many of them have access to cell phones. Many of them have access to the internet. You have, I believe, 787. You have Adonis looks like you dropped. You got about 787 million people that are using their cell phones to connect to the internet. So Africa is one of the most connected continents if you just look at it in regards to sheer number.
Keep going, continue. I'm gonna log off and log back in because I'm getting some feedback. Exit and come right back in. Or it might be a mine. If it's on, if that is fixed, then I'll log off and then come back in. But just come out and come back in.
Let me exit and come back in.
Okay. Guys, how's the sound? How's the sound? Is it okay? Yeah, I don't know why. I was hearing some feedback. I don't know what the issue is. And we definitely need to get this information. So again, guys, hit the like button as you come to the chat room. Please hit the like button. Okay, here. All right, go ahead.
All right, so how we looking? We're looking good?
Go ahead. We'll be all right. Go ahead.
All right. So where did I leave off? What point was I touching?
I think you left off. I guess you were going to like as far as geographical region, as far as the currency, the value.
Yeah. So now you're subject to the dictates of the central bank in that particular area. So if their policies aren't too consistent or attractive, and they're doing things like devaluing the currency, you're becoming poor overnight. So, for example, if the dollar was devalued by half, essentially everybody savings would be cut in half. So now what people have done is they said, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use a global currency, if you will. It's not subject to the dictates of our particular central bank that may engage in policies that we don't necessarily agree with, and these policies devalue our currency. So what we'll do is we'll put our currency in, for example, Bitcoin, which currently is trending up, and as long as it's trending upwards, then that means that your savings are actually growing. So a lot of Nigerians realize that, you know what, I keep my savings in Bitcoin, and I can actually continue to gain, if you will, rather than being saddled with a currency that's continually being devalued.
All right, Ebube, go. Guys, can you hear me? Hold on. Did Ebube dip on me? Hold on 1 second. All right, Ebube, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're good now. Go ahead. Let's roll. I'm using
Good.
my phone now. Something was acting up on my computer.
Okay, that's cool. I'll just start from we'll talk about demographics in Nigeria and why Bitcoin, and I'll use Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies interchangeably, and I'll talk about them from the perspective of why they're attractive to Africans.
Okay.
We can go from there. So, for example, when you're in a geographical area, you're subject to that central bank and their policies. And sometimes you might not like the policies of that particular central bank. So, for example, you might have your savings, and if they decide to devalue your currency twice in a year, then that means you've lost a substantial amount of your savings. And anybody that knows that when you hold the Naira for too long, for example, if you leave the country and it's been 12 years since you've been back, you just know that when you go there with that 100,000 Naira, you're going to be shocked that it's not getting the same, you're not getting the same amount for what you used to get. So certain Nigerians realize that, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my Naira into Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin being one of the most popular ones. And as long as it's trending upwards, my savings are actually increasing, and they may even increase exponentially. So there's really no loss. So that was attractive to Nigerians, for example, especially since the pandemic and the global fall in oil prices. And the good thing about the cryptocurrency is that it's a global currency. It's peer-to-peer. There's really no large institution over top of it dictating the policies, if you will. not like a governmental currency. You look at, for example, one of the French West African nations, and Akon, for example, touched on this point. And that was one of the reasons why he is pushing with the A coin.
Right.
Because if you're in one of the West Africa parts of West Africa that were colonized by the French, you realize that to an extent the money is still tied heavily to the French, even though it's your nation's currency. So now, if you don't like that fact, or you don't like the policies that body is going to put forth for that particular currency, it's very attractive to look to the crypto market, because that can essentially become your currency if you float a coin properly and it's adopted. So in certain nations, that was just attractive to them. Now, the central bank in 2017 warned against cryptocurrencies. So people, to an extent, act as if the central bank just woke up and decided to take an action. This is an action that's consistent with its prior position, going back 4 or 5 years ago when they issued the initial letter. But here's the real problem. What they're trying to do essentially is like they're trying to regulate the internet. Now, you can't really regulate the internet. You can do things to make it difficult to use the internet in your country, but you really don't own the internet enough to stop it. What they're really trying to do is this. Most platforms that Nigerians in Nigeria use to access cryptocurrencies require that you link it to one of the banking institutions.
Right.
And so one of the banking institutions, you link it to your an actual account that's been authenticated, like a simple bank account where you have your Naira stored. And so with the Naira, what you're going to do is you're going to use the Naira and transfer that you're going to use that to purchase crypto, in many cases, Bitcoin. And so from there, what the central bank did is the central bank essentially said, none of the financial institutions should allow money to leave accounts for the purpose of doing that. So you can't ban cryptocurrencies per se, because there are ways around removing the financial institution. But currently, the financial institutions are essentially the enablers for the current iteration on how Nigerians trade. But that doesn't mean that it's the only iteration. It's just the current one. And Nigerians on and outside of the continent are very crafty and can get what they want to get. So many are wondering how this is going to be enforced. Now, they're not criminalizing it or anything like that. They're just removing the Nigerian financial institutions from the equation. They're in making it more difficult. But it's going to be interesting to see how they enforce this in other ways if Nigerians become crafty and move around those particular bans.
But from what it seems, if they're, I guess, giving notice to banks to, I guess, cancel accounts of people who are using crypto, using their bank accounts to move crypto, then in essence, I mean, it's just it's very tough. Like, how crafty can you get?
Well, I mean, you just need a wallet and you need a bank account, and that's it. All you need is a wallet and a bank account. The Bitcoin goes in the wallet. The bank account is where you hold your traditional currency, and you basically make transactions between the two. So you can get an account almost not anywhere, but if you're smart and you understand how things move and work, all you need is just an account that's not regulated by the Nigerian central bank. This is similar to what China did.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
It's similar to what China did prior to their new stance. And we have to remember the distinction between digital currency and cryptocurrency. That's a very big distinction, right? So, for example, cryptocurrency, it's peer-to-peer. It's me and you. There's no middleman. There's no financial institution. It's just me and whoever I'm sending or transacting business with. A digital currency, and here's what's happening, right? Many of the central banks are looking at having something, I believe they're calling it the central bank digital currency.
Right, CBDC.
Yeah, and so a lot of places have come out in favor of that. Certain central bankers have come out in favor of that. Certain people at the IMF and things like that have come out in favor of that. And what essentially it looks like that's going to be is it's going to be a digital currency that comes directly from the central bank of that nation.
Right.
So America might have the digital dollar, and the central bank will set you up with a wallet. So you wouldn't have a bank account like you have at Wells Fargo or Chase or something of that nature. You would have a wallet with the government, with the central bank of that particular nation. And it would be interesting because it would give the central banks a lot more control over the economy. Because, for example, let's say they want to stimulate certain sectors of the economy. Normally, they have to act through third parties and do certain things that have certain effects that are predictable to actually to have an effect on the economy. But let's say, for example, everyone has a digital wallet with the central bank of the American Federal Reserve or the central bank of whatever nation implements this. What could happen is that, let's say they decide people who make under $140,000 a year, you're going to get $3,000, but that $3,000 is going to expire in 30 days, and you have to spend that $3,000 within that 30 days within 6 key areas that you're allowed to spend that money. So if you try to spend that money outside of one of those 6 key areas, it won't go through.
Right.
That's something that a central bank could do with a digital currency. So now you see how
that's a problem too. If you have a digital currency from a central bank, they could just cut you off. They could just shut down your account just like that.
It gives central banks a lot more power than they have now. But to an extent, that can happen to you now. There's ways, if a government wants to shut you down, they can just take your passport. If they really want, like, there's always been ways for the government, if they want to stop you and prevent you from freely moving, there's plenty of other ways they have. That would just be one of them. But yeah, so we have to remember that the cryptocurrency is peer-to-peer. It doesn't have a large financial institution. Digital currencies are some of the, it's almost like the it's like the alternative, if you will. But it's still tied to, I think, a lot of nations, they're looking at the future, trying to potentially saying, if everyone goes cashless into these cryptos, and they're looking at it like it's not if, it's when, right?
Right.
If everybody, because they're looking at places like Africa where people might say, you know what, I don't really appreciate the central bank's monetary policy, and rather than holding my savings in this local currency, I can hold it in this global currency known this Bitcoin or this cryptocurrency, and I'll use those two interchangeably. So now that starts looking a lot more attractive. What happens when everybody on the planet decides to do that? So now I think the handwriting may be on the wall, or some people who are looking long term are saying it may be best to just go digital and create an alternative to the current crypto. So those are the digital currencies. And a lot of nations, and also too, when you look at when the central bank governors or people who manage them come out, sometimes people confuse cryptocurrencies and digital currencies, and they're completely two different things. So in regards to Kenya, that brings up an interesting situation, because I've been following the central bank governor of Kenya, and he's made certain statements in favor of crypto. But I also heard that I read, but it's not substantiated. I've been trying to substantiate the claim that they're going to be holding some of their federal reserves, some of their national reserves in Bitcoin. That sounded very outside of the ordinary, but they have had statements in favor. Government officials have come out in favor of cryptocurrencies. But what I really want to see is whether they're actually talking about cryptocurrencies or digital currencies. Because there is that difference, and it would make more sense for central banks to be in favor of digital currencies rather than cryptocurrencies, because by nature of a cryptocurrency, it's peer-to-peer, and you're cutting out the large institution.
Now, if central banks were to come out with this CBDC type of currency, this digital currency, how would that affect cryptocurrency, or would it at all?
It depends. Now, it's all about user adoption. Now, let's say some people who, like currently, for example, traditional people who have portfolios and are very traditional with their money, they might not have any crypto in their whole portfolio. It might be 0%.
Right.
Some people might have 1 to 5% of their overall portfolio is crypto. Some people have, and some younger people have jumped in headlong, and 100% of their portfolio is crypto as opposed to more of the traditional stocks. So it all depends on your risk tolerance, because certain people just don't feel comfortable, nor will they feel comfortable for quite a long time transacting 100% of their transactions in a cryptocurrency. Now, there's a certain segment of the population who are very comfortable. And we go back to the African continent. We have, for example, in Zimbabwe, in Zimbabwe, there's a gas station that only accepts cryptocurrency. I believe they only accept Bitcoin, and they do all their transactions in Bitcoin. And that was that particular gas station was a forerunner, if you will, to what is possible, because there was a time when there was external manipulation on the Zimbabwe currency, and inflation went all the way up. I think they had billions and trillions of dollars
for like a loaf of bread. It was like $1 million
just to buy the basic amenities.
Right.
So now, if that's your only option, if that currency is your only option, then cryptocurrencies, the global currency that's not affected by your local politics, is a very attractive option at that point. So when you have situations like that, then you might want to get ahead of it and go ahead and put out your version of a cryptocurrency, but it's not a true cryptocurrency because it's not peer-to-peer. What it really is, it's a digital currency that's essentially being put out directly by the central bank of many of these nations.
Guys, hit the like button again, please. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you go to dynastymir.com, and also make sure you subscribe to our brother Ebube's YouTube page, Up Close and Center. Again, Up Close and Center. Now, Ebube, somebody just brought up a great question in the chat room. What about gold? Like, what role does gold play in all of this?
Well, all right, I'll just give a brief history just in case, for those who aren't familiar with how we got to where we are. There was something called the gold standard because gold was the first Bitcoin. Gold was the first cryptocurrency in modern times that we can remember. It was a generally accepted medium of trade, which means that gold was good from Mali to Mecca to Rome to China, ancient China. Gold was generally accepted, meaning that if you showed up with a boatload of gold, you can do trade in most places that you went.
Right.
And this was the case up until the end of World War II, which was like a tribal conflict in Europe between the various groups. And they fought each other, and they spent a lot of gold fighting each other. And by the time they were done, they were very successful at destroying each other. And they were also very good at spending most of their gold. And so certain nations had 75% of the world's gold, that nation being America. And these nations were so beat up and didn't have any gold. So they said, okay, what we'll do is we'll use America's currency as the basis for our currency. And that basically created the current situation, the Bretton Woods system, if you will. That was kind of the foundation, with the dollar being the world's new gold. So because the dollar was backed by gold, the dollar essentially became the world's gold. And once the dollar became the world's gold, my nation's currency had value not because it could be exchanged for gold, but it had value because it could be exchanged for dollars, which then could be exchanged for gold. So rather than having a vault in my central bank full of gold, I can have a vault full of dollars because I can take these dollars and exchange them in America for gold. So, so the world moved from the direct gold standard to the standard where the dollar became the world's new gold, and this went on, and it was very successful. America was very successful because everybody wanted dollars. Unfortunately, there were too many dollars put into circulation, and sometimes when you got a good thing, sometimes people like to really overdo it, and it became overdone that there were too many dollars in circulation. So the value of each dollar started to go down relative to gold, which made everybody panic and say, okay, you know what? It was essentially a bank run, an international bank run. They basically said, hey, these dollars, my whole economy, my currency is based on these dollars, and every day they're worth less and less and less. I'm going to need some gold for these. And so America was losing so much gold that they said, okay, no more. And so at that point, currencies began to float, and there were market forces that basically gave your supply and demand kind of set the price. The markets essentially set the price for different currencies, and there were other factors that went into play. So we moved away from the standard where gold was what backed currencies in around the 40s, and in the 70s we moved completely away from the dollar being backed to gold. So gold hasn't been in play for quite some time. Also, too, if you want to buy large quantities of gold, that's heavily regulated, heavily regulated. So most people aren't going to be able to acquire enough gold to really disrupt global markets. So gold it's good to have. It's great, but it's going to be a long time before we return to a gold standard, because a lot of people can't justify their nation's worth with actual gold.
Right.
And the nations that do have a lot of gold would like that, but they're not in the power position to demand that everybody come to the table with gold to justify their currencies. So gold was the standard, and at this point, gold is no longer the standard. The dollar was the gold standard, if you will, but up until the 70s. So gold has been out of the equation for quite some time.
Now, say a country like Kenya was to utilize Bitcoin as their reserve currency. What could be the impact on that in regards to their fiscal or monetary system?
It would be interesting to watch. It would be interesting to watch, because we have to ask ourselves what really determines the value of Bitcoin. Like, what you're gonna hold all of your nation's reserve in a semi-volatile cryptocurrency. See, when I read that, I wanted to read it from more and more sources, because I think maybe someone was confused in regards to, because many people confuse cryptocurrencies with digital currencies, right? So I was wondering, did the author of that particular article mix up digital currency with cryptocurrency? Because if a central bank is going to encourage the use of cryptocurrencies, you're essentially, it's like the optometrist advocating for people to get LASIK surgery, right? It doesn't make sense, because you can't sell any more eyeglasses if everybody has LASIK.
Right. Okay.
So if the central bank is saying you guys should use peer-to-peer currencies that don't necessarily go through any central bank, why would they be advocating for such a position?
Right. Well, guys, hit that like button. We're going to open up the lines here in a second. So if you want to call in, I think somebody put the email in the chat room again. Email is ahuru@searchforahuru.com, ahuru@searchforahuru.com. Again, please put the email in the chat room. I can't do it right now because I'm on my phone. So again, if you'd like to call in, send me an email. I will forward you the link. In fact, I can do it from my computer, actually. I just can't.
And quickly, Donis, I'll go into the difference between a digital currency and a cryptocurrency.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So a cryptocurrency is peer-to-peer, which means that it goes from me to you. And once it's left my hand, it's left my hand. It can't really be replicated, which means that it's authentic. It's not like a picture on your phone, where if I take my phone and I have a picture, I can copy that JPEG and send it to you, and we'll both have a copy. It's essentially like a picture that if I text it to another person, it leaves my phone, and it's now with that other person, and it's recorded on a ledger. So that is a cryptocurrency. There's the central banks, the large financial institutions aren't a part of that transfer. I essentially transferred it, the person paying to the person receiving. And once it's left my hand, it's left my hand. That's a cryptocurrency. That's why people talk about the blockchain authentication and all of that. Now, with a digital currency would, in this particular context, be something that is put out by the central bank of that nation. So, for example, hypothetically, it might be called digital dollars. And I believe China did this recently, where they had an app. You get on the app, and then there's a lottery. And then some people who got on the app got some of the digital dollars from the central bank. And they were able to spend it on certain things. And the central bank had certain restrictions. You couldn't buy gold with it. You couldn't buy other currencies with it, et cetera, et cetera. But these people essentially got digital currency, right? But it was from a central bank. It wasn't peer to peer. It was from a central bank to the end user in their digital wallet. So they'd have a wallet that would hold their digital currency as well as their bank account, which would hold their more traditional currency. So the digital currencies and the new trend, and this is really, really, really new in regards to what's being advocated, is that there's a certain push to essentially move away from cash and to embrace the new trend, because many of the large institutions, the traditionally entrenched institutions, are seeing that cashless and digital might just be the way, and they don't want to get left behind.
Right.
So they're proposing their versions and saying, well, these are more secure and they're backed up by a federal government and a central bank, for better or for worse. However, we talked about in Africa and certain countries, they want to get away from that. They want to be able to move away from the policies of their particular central bank or the currency that their nation has chosen to use.
Okay. Guys, again, lines are open. If you'd like to call in, email is uhuru@searchforuhuru.com, uhuru@searchforuhuru.com. Emails in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the discussion, please send me an email and I will forward you the link and you will be able to call in. Now, Ebube, what brings value to, there's so many different coins. Like, what brings value to all these different coins? And what determines which coin? You know, the Bitcoin right now is a little over 47,000, close to 48,000. Ethereum is at like a little over 1,800. You know, what determines the value of these coins?
That's actually a topic of great debate, and we can speak about that for hours. What I'll bring up to illustrate that point is the recent surge of, well, it's a continuation of several other stocks, but we had Dogecoin. I'm not sure if it's Doge or Dog, but it's DOGE coin. And essentially you had people on certain forums saying, what we're going to do is everybody buy and hold, and we're going to push up the price.
Right.
And we're going to hold even when it goes up, because we're going to push this thing up really high. And so if you've been holding it or following it, a lot of people have, and there's been a lot of activity around it. It's gone up to, I believe, around past 8 cents. It dips and goes up and down, but it was a fractional penny until people said, we're going to push this thing to the moon. And so now that opens up a new debate and saying, okay, if the people in unison, if everybody gets together and gets on code and says, hey, look, here's what we're going to do to this currency. Here's what we're going to do to this particular crypto. We're going to determine the price because we're going to drive the price up. So now you can see a lot of people banding together to an extent can drive the price up. Prior generations, they called that market manipulation, but there's no one person that you can point to and say, this is the person that's driving the price up.
Hey, Ayo, you gotta turn off the playback, Ayo. All right, thank you. All right, go ahead, Ebube.
And so, and Ayo, how you doing? How's everything? But so we're entering a new era where people may be able to band together and do certain things. It's like the ant eating the elephant, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Ayo, go ahead, brother. You're muted.
Hey, you want to hit the microphone? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well.
Excellent. You're giving some very valuable information on crypto. Good job, guys. Dynast, I've been following you for a while, and you're doing incredible work. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and you brought up some pretty important points. Sort of like what's it called? An amateur crypto investor myself. But I mean, the main reason that I feel I need to sort of like bring a couple of things up is especially the Nigeria aspect. I think we're viewing Nigeria as just a regular country, which for the most part it kind of is. But there's kind of a lot at play, especially at this particular point in time regarding the crypto issue. The ban has very little to do with crypto policy. It has more to do with preventing diasporic Nigerians from crowdfunding. I'm not sure how. Are you familiar with what's going on in Nigeria right now with the herders and the bandits and all that?
Well, there's a lot. It's multidimensional, but what effect is that having on monetary policy?
So diasporic Nigerians have a huge they have huge access to money, and they can make a pretty significant dent by sending money back home, specifically for people on whichever side they want to support. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but there is a specific interest in Nigeria that's been pretty popular among diasporic Nigerians in the South, and they've been sort of like crowdfunding to aid his I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. Aid his sort of like intention or his movement, and the government isn't too pleased about that. Okay, so this ban has very little to do with monetary. The same thing they did with NSARS. When
okay, are you saying that the government has certain positions against? Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that that there's money coming into the country, and
right.
The federal government is saying that there's a lot of money coming into the country. But I do have a question. Then that kind of contradicts the former position. Right now, what the government really wants to prevent are dollars leaving the country. They would like for a lot of dollars to come into the country because, as you know, dollars are scarce right now because oil is not being traded, and oil was the major form of forex for Nigerians. So now if you kind of cut that and whittle it down to what, at one point it was $13 a barrel, $5 a barrel during the heights of the pandemic. People were enjoying the lower gas and oil prices. But so wouldn't they, Adonis, you're still with us? But my question is, wouldn't they necessarily want dollars to come into the country? If
you would think so, right? You would think so, right? So let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the 1.9 billion rail line that's been approved from a certain state to a certain country that has no economic potential at all? So it's not about the money. It's I mean, you're viewing things like a very smart, educated Nigerian, which you are, but that's not what matters to the leadership at this point in time. They have more pressing. So
what would you say matters to them? What would you say is the overarching issue?
Well, I'm not going to go into it just because I don't want to sort of like put myself in a strange situation. But there's a lot going on right now. We just Google. Hey, just Google what's going on in Nigeria. What's the most pressing issue right now, and everything will make sense.
Nigeria is multi-dimensional.
The leader we have right now.
So much going on in Nigeria. Like I want to follow your logic. I want to follow your logic, but you got to be a little bit more specific.
Right.
I will say this overall is that the position that they currently have is consistent with the position from 4 years ago. And Nigeria in 4 years, a lot of things happen, things change. So this isn't necessarily a departure. This is them just restating with more force.
They went from 0 to 100 in a second, though. They banned crypto. India has done the same thing too.
Let's not talk over each other because then it won't come out right. But
my apologies.
What I'm saying is that no problem. What I'm saying is that in the last 4 years, their position has remained consistent. What they did different this time is that they saw the basic structure. The basic structure is that Nigerians will use their bank account. They'll take money from their Nigerian bank account and put that into their wallet in exchange for cryptocurrencies. So they essentially told the banks, hey, you guys can't be a part of this transaction. That you can't ban cryptocurrencies because it's like banning the internet. And remember that China, and you have to remember central banks to an extent aren't the biggest fans of the crypto market because it's not in their general interest to over support peer-to-peer transactions, right? It just doesn't make sense. So now for a central bank to come out against the cryptocurrency, it's not a surprise, especially when 4 years ago they came out with the same warning. But now that it's gained momentum because of the pandemic and the overall downturn of the economy and the Naira being devalued twice in 1 year, these are the factors that pushed a lot of Nigerians to say it's better to have a Bitcoin wallet than to have my money in GTB or Access or one of those major players. And those banks, to an extent, if they're moved aside, that's not good for them either. So it was really easy for them to comply and say, well, it's not really in our interest anyway, unless we're merely going to be the middleman between the people and the cryptocurrency market. And you have to also remember that in China there was the ban, but then they changed their position and they moved into the digital currency space, which they've essentially put out their own cryptocurrency. But I hate to say that because it's not a cryptocurrency, it's not peer-to-peer, it's a digital currency. And so Nigeria might go the same route as China and eventually put out the digital Naira.
I'm assuming you're not very in touch with what's going on with Nigeria, because you're making a lot of sense, and any normal situation you would 100% be correct. But has China banned crypto and just within 24 hours without any notice to anyone? India, in the last few days, have said they're going to ban crypto. The only difference is
they gave it a time table.
6 months notice. Nigeria banned crypto with 24 hours. And when I say banned crypto, I mean banned Bitcoin transfer to Naira accounts immediately. And central bank can do that. They can pretty much just send
which was highly unfair. If you look at what brought up India, India gave several days that and sometimes when it comes to policy execution, sometimes Nigeria, we will come out with one, like, for example, if you know Nigeria, that every year around Christmas, around New Year's, they remove the fuel subsidy, fuel shoots up, right? Now they're trying to put. A lot of times they're trying to put.
Why do you think that was done within 24 hours?
So now they try to put the cart before the horse. So Nigeria has had a history of rolling out policies that might not be the most people friendly. I remember there was a time when I was living in Abuja, there were fuel shortages and scarcity all the time. So people would take jerry cans and they'd begin selling at the side of the road. And sometimes if the police call you, they give serious penalties to these people. But at the same time, hey, Ayo, let me just finish. Okay. So they started giving harsh penalties to these people selling fuel in jerry cans at the side of the road, but they were actually meeting the needs of the people because there were some queues that you would go into for gas and you'd be there for 6 hours. So that right there was a problem. You had people stepping in to fix the problem, but because of harsh policies, some of these people were receiving jail time for essentially mitigating the problem. So when it comes to policy implementation, you have to understand that sometimes policies are rolled out in a manner that's not necessarily people friendly. And that's something that we as Nigerians have to work on, especially when we're in the corridors of power. Like I said, you brought up a good point with India. India gave a timetable to wake up one day and say, they didn't, once again, let's use very precise language. That's why I use very precise language. They didn't ban cryptocurrency. They can't do that. What they did is they removed the banks from the transaction. Why is that significant? That's significant because the banks essentially were the link between, you needed a Nigerian account that was authenticated through a bank to make those transactions. So now you'd make those transactions by putting money into a bank and then putting it into your wallet. And then from there, you could buy and proceed in that manner. Now, if I remove the bank, then that really cuts out the major way that 99% of Nigerians conducting and interacting with their wallet. The floor is yours.
All right, awesome. So thanks. So yes, you've made complete sense. But the question is, specifically, if you can, why do you think it was banned within 24 hours? That's the question. I understand Nigeria has its
Okay,
problems.
I'll address that question now. Unfortunately, that to me, that was bad policy implementation. Personally, what I believe that they let me just finish. Let me finish. But you asked me what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think. Personally, I think that they should have gave a timetable, meaning that they're going to say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to roll it out in phases so that it's not as harsh. Because in Nigeria, we have a long track record of just introducing harsh policies. For example, in the 80s, there's a certain time that in the 80s, there was a certain time that they fixed prices on things. And if they caught you in the market selling tomatoes or any onions at a price higher than what was set, they would burn all of your goods. Now, just think about that. Such retrogressive draconian policies. Yeah, they were burning people's goods. They sold over the fixed rate. So now, if you look back in the 80s, and that's not even we can go further than that. But unfortunately, we in Nigeria have always had an issue when it comes to policy implementation. And like you said, why do I think that they only gave 24 hours? Because unfortunately, not all of our policies in Nigeria let me just finish. Not all of our policies are people friendly.
Any Nigerian anywhere, they know. If any Nigerian who is in touch with what's going on, they know why crypto was banned. There's no point beating around the bush.
In your opinion, why was crypto banned? In your opinion,
why do you feel you need to defend bad policy? That's the bigger question. I mean, seriously, why at this point in time?
Let me ask you a question. What gives you the impression that I'm defending bad policy if I myself have said that it was harsh policy? Listen, Ayo, you're not listening.
You're not even letting me speak.
Ayo, you're talking over me. I can't talk. You're asking me a question. You're cutting me off. Now you're starting to seem very disingenuous, and we're not going to continue like this. If this is how you're going to proceed, we're both men, and we have to treat with respect. Now, to answer your question,
right?
You asked me why I feel the need to defend bad policy. Now, in answering that question, you've answered it yourself. It was me myself who termed it bad policy. That's not friendly to the people. And I cited that Nigeria has a long track record of putting forth policies that simply aren't people friendly. And I brought up the 80s when they would burn certain produce. I brought up the jerry cans. Ayo, please. You're
seriously, man.
You know, it's always gonna proceed very long if you keep cutting me off. So now I brought up.
You can disconnect me whenever you want. But I'm not going to sit here and waste my time. I'm a very busy man. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time and have you just.
Hey, Donis, it seems like we're not getting anywhere with this. You have another caller, please.
Okay. What's your question?
The question is, there's a lot going on, and I don't know why. I mean, this is actually making me a little, confused as to why Ebube feels the need to. He's my brother, and I love you, man. But I don't understand why you want to so blatantly and obviously sort of like detract from what's going on. You're not even curious about it. That's what's more intriguing to me. You haven't once said, what is going on? Tell me.
Here we go. What's going on?
You just want to beat around the bush.
I think we've exhausted this call.
What's going on? What's going on?
Listen, it's very easy. There's a lot going on right now, and I have been a fan of yours, and I actually kind of like Ebube quite a bit, but I'm just a little suspect right now as to why he needs to shut down this conversation with.
No. I'm curious. What's going on? I'm giving you the floor. What's going on?
No, I'm not. It's not for me to say, but there is a lot going on. Anyone who wants to figure what's going on or what is going on can do that research.
Yeah, but you're upset for not stating what's going on. I'm asking you what's going on. Now you don't want to tell me.
That's the thing. We're in a public forum, and I'm just not going to go there. But
you want Ebube to go there, though.
No, he's. The reason I am a little concerned is he's not even showing any curiosity. So that to me tells me that he knows what's going on. He feels he needs to protect a sense of position.
I'm confused.
I mean, why? But he's not even curious. He hasn't once said, Mario,
you're
what's
upset.
going
That's
on?
sort
What are
of
you talking
curiosity,
about?
but at the same time, you don't want to share what's going on. So what's the
Yeah,
point of being curious if you're not going to share? Like I'm curious, like what's going on?
right. So I suppose what I'm saying is there is a lot more to the ban on crypto than what you see or what you think it is.
So
No one bans,
what
no,
is
even
it?
a crazy country like Nigeria isn't going to ban crypto in 24 hours without a reason to. Okay, no
What's
one is
the
doing that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Why would you ban? Why would you ban anything in 24 hours? Won't you give people a chance to cash out or sort of like come to some sort of sane arrangement? You're not just going to ban it within 24 hours unless you have a reason to do that.
But
And
you've been talking in circles. Just speak on it in a sentence or two. Just
yeah?
give us
Well,
your position
I want
because
to know
you're talking in circles, and nobody
what's the
knows what you're talking about. And you seem like you're frustrating yourself. So just say it, or let's move on because at this point, like you've really wasted my time, and you're not paying me for this. So you gotta kind of get to the point.
like I said, hey, you're not
So
paying
what's
me for
the
this
point?
either. Cut me off whenever you want. I mean, I don't really. It's not an issue. It doesn't matter what's going on. We're talking about crypto and the ban of crypto in Nigeria, right? I mean, that was the topic, right? And that's why I called in. And I'm just a little, I'm just like, why aren't you even curious about why things were banned in such a crazy manner?
Okay, hold on.
I know you are, Dynasty.
Leave Ebube out of it. Leave Ebube out. Let's leave Ebube out of it. I'm curious. Like I want to know. Leave Ebube out of it.
Right. So so if you're curious, just go Google. Just go Google stuff. It's information isn't hard to come by.
Your advice is to Google stuff. All right. So listen, I'm gonna Google stuff tomorrow. I'm gonna type in stuff in Google, and I'm gonna press enter. But what else outside of this serious topic that you don't want to cover? What else do you have on the topic though? Because we have a lot of people watching.
Hey, like I said, I'm good. I'm done. I'm not a.
What else on the topic do you have?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. You guys, thanks for taking my call and keep on doing the good work.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for calling.
Take care, brother.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I'm confused. So he was upset that you're not curious, but then he didn't want to give the information. So what's the point of being curious?
I wanted to know more, but it sounded like he was maybe he just was holding his tongue on something, and I can't read people's minds. If you have something to say, we're both men. Say it. If you don't,
oh boy,
you can't be upset.
Yeah. I'm confused. Like he was upset that you weren't curious enough, but I'm curious and I want to know, but he doesn't want to share the information with me.
I'm not sure. It was really quoted.
Hey, good evening, brothers. Hey, Dynast, I don't know if you remember, a couple of days ago, last time I was on here, I said I thought it was a strategic error for the government in Nigeria to take that position. And I think they realized it. Probably what they see is you're seeing institutional interest in the United States. And we already have some, regulatory frameworks around Bitcoin. Specifically, I'm talking about Bitcoin at this moment. But so I don't think that it's smart. I think that we should take a position of interest and really educating the youth to really understand these things, understand encryption beyond Bitcoin, understand other blockchains, because I do think that these companies will come out with central bank digital currencies. The question is, what will they be backed by? What will they be pegged to? Will they be pegged to the US dollar? Will they be pegged to gold? Will they be backed by oil reserves? I'm not sure. But I think it's interesting, the opportunity that Africa has to leapfrog and just ride on top of some of these global decentralized systems. And I think even the banks in the United States are noticing that that's an opportunity. Like literally a couple of days ago, people were talking about quantum computers and what if Bitcoin gets hacked, and the same encryption mechanisms that secure the rest of the global financial system are the same things that secure Bitcoin. So if you can break that type of encryption, we're all in trouble, right? Like nothing is really secure at that point. But and those encryption systems can be upgraded anyways. You know, there's anti-quantum or quantum resistant type of things. But I'm also interested in how Nigeria specifically can use blockchains beyond, you know, the financial to enable their future as they integrate into this kind of global supply chain type of system. I mean, there's a lot of big Fortune 100 companies investing in blockchain specifically for supply chain type things. This is beyond necessarily financial things. And I also mentioned the other day, there's the Energy Web Foundation. And there's another huge consortium of global energy players that are trying to figure out how to do these smart grids. And so you can have provenance of, okay, this came from a coal plant or this came from a renewable source. And for Nigeria, I think it's really interesting the fact that you have all of this oil, gas and oil infrastructure. I feel like those are some of the prime businesses to actually capitalize on.
Did we lose them?
Hey, oh boy, it seems like we've lost you a little bit. You're making some really good points too. Maybe if you're walking around, just hold still when you speak. Very sensible caller. I was actually enjoying his breakdown on that.
Oops. Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
a lot better.
It's
So yeah,
better?
what was
Okay.
the question?
Yeah.
So what was your question in regards to tonight's topic?
Well,
Yeah.
my real question is, what can we do to encourage, if it's not the government from top down, to encourage young people from the bottom up to start to look at some of these enabling technologies and see how, you know, the rest of the world is moving.
To answer your question, there's a natural curiosity that's already on ground. For them to have to come out, and you have to remember that the last 4 to 5 months of 2020, which is last year, just really just a few months ago, every monthly we were looking at around $200 million worth of transactions. There's already a natural curiosity there, right? So nobody had to come out with government programs to tell Africans, and you have to remember that African youths, let's say 75% of the population is under the age of 25, 80% is under the age of 35. So you have a very young continent, and everybody under the age of 35 has a cell phone. And most of the people who have cell phones, there's 760 to 780 million cell phones with connections to the internet, or the capability to be connected to the internet, in the hands of Africans. And there's about 1.3 to 1.4 billion Africans, depending on which source you look at. But by the end of this decade, we're looking at almost double that. So now it's already coming from the grassroots. That's why the government, and to me, this policy, I don't necessarily agree with the policy, especially the reasonings behind it. The reasonings behind it, and the caller before, he did bring up a good point. Why 24 hours? That's extremely draconian. That's one of the things where you're just out of touch doing it in such a hasty manner. That's just not people friendly. But at the same time, they had their reasons, whether or not we truly believe, and by their reasons, they talked about money laundering and terrorism. Now, my only question is, what I can do that with dollars, I can do that with pounds. Why not ban those as well? So you see that the logic, if you follow the logic, what they've released, at least, is not very sound in regards to the action that was taken. And there may be a pullback. What I anticipate is it's going to be, and I brought this up before, Nigeria's pathway is probably going to mirror China's. China initially had the same position of Nigeria and has since backpedaled and gotten to a softer position. What we're saying is Nigeria go through its progression of going from reiterating its position from 4 or 5 years ago in 2017, stating to avoid what they called virtual currencies. They hadn't called it cryptocurrencies at the time, but everybody knew what subset of currencies that they applied to, and it explicitly listed Bitcoin and I think Litecoin and a few others at the time when they put out that letter that was circulated around from the central bank. So 2017 was the first time they came out against cryptos, even though they called it virtual currencies. And recently they've come out, very recently, and this is what we're talking about now, to reiterate that position. And not only reiterate that position, they came in with a command to the banks to cease and desist from their role. And the problem is that the banks played the central role in how most Nigerians facilitated transactions with Bitcoin. And we talked about earlier, there was a lot of reasons why, for example, Nigerians or French West Africans would look at such a currency and keeping their money in Bitcoin, especially when it's currently on an upward trend, rather than having their money locked into the geographical currency that's in 1 year been devalued twice. So it's more so conditions that created the situation that we see on ground, conditions from the top, which affected the grassroots, which created a movement within the grassroots to take a certain action. Now, once the grassroots took a certain action and heavily embraced the crypto market, the government now came out against the people. Rather than creating policies and crafting policies around what the people are already doing in large numbers and what they're putting their money where their mouths are, they came out with a policy against the movement of the people. Therefore, any policy, and if you look at this in any nation, any policy that's against the people at large, and the people at every given chance will try and get around such restrictions. It's almost like prohibition in America when they were going after people for distributing alcohol products. The people simply found more creative ways to get their alcohol until eventually they said, okay, you know what, we're going to just go ahead and get rid of this prohibition. So now anytime you have policies that are against the momentum of the people, and you have to remember that laws are only legitimate if we decide to follow them. If everybody decides, no, we're not going to follow a certain law, there aren't enough law enforcement agents out there to make the will of the people, to go against the will of the people. That's how revolutions happen. Revolutions happen when you have so many unpopular policies that people have gone against so many of your policies that they've just decided that we're just going to completely remove this government. So now what I suspect, being that this is a very unpopular policy, is that people are going to find ways around it. Trust Nigerians, they're very creative. And so once the government realizes that people are just finding ways around these regulations that we've put up, they're going to find a way to go with the flow as opposed to going against the flow.
Yeah, I had just one last question for you. Do you think it's possible for countries to adopt Bitcoin, not to like put their whole national treasury in Bitcoin, but to adopt it as a strategic reserve asset, similar to gold, similar to holding gold on their?
It depends. Yeah. It depends. And the answer is yes and no. Here's what it depends on. Let's say you hold my country's currency and reserves and you use it to do certain transactions. Mm-hmm. Because I said you need to do certain transactions in my currency, right? The only reason you're using my currency is because I said so to your nation. Right. Because you need things from me. And now you want to tell me that you no longer want to hold my currency as a strategic reserve? Well, then that means you're going to have some problems there, my friend. And by problems, I mean that you're going to really strongly reconsider, or I may potentially just put someone else in power in your country that maintains the status quo if I decide that that's something important and I have the power to get it done. So the answer is yes, you can do anything you want. However, we have to look at the geopolitical realities of every situation and every action.
So if Apple, for example, buys some Bitcoin, they'll still have more money than anybody else. They'll still have tons of US dollars, but that'll bring some legitimacy, I think, to, this as an asset class. I think I could be wrong, but I believe that there was recently, maybe in Canada, an ETF approved for Bitcoin, which that now would open the door for, for institutions now to more easily in funds and pension funds and things like that, to where
you bring up a great point. It's receiving more and more legitimacy as time goes on. And have you been watching the broadcast from the beginning?
Yes.
And you remember in the beginning what we talked about is that the wave is on the side of adoption of cryptocurrencies.
Absolutely.
Now, cryptocurrencies are peer-to-peer. Now, who's naturally, that means you're taking away the large institutions. And the large institutions are going to do everything they can to fight back. So once again, seeing a central bank not being too pleased with cryptocurrencies, it's not a surprise. right? And
Yeah,
really
yeah,
what the
obviously.
central banks are trying to do is they're trying to get ahead of the cryptocurrencies with digital currencies issued by central banks. That's going to be their way of slowing down the direction of it going this way, but ultimately the direction is still going towards digital currencies. And as you state, every single day, it's like cryptocurrencies are becoming more and more legit as time goes on. There was a time when they were very risky, and this was 2015, 2014, 16, very risky. But the forerunner of the pack was Bitcoin to an extent that gave other crypto coins legitimacy.
Right.
So
And
you
then
bring up a great
like with, you see Michael Saylor, and then what is Mass Mutual, you get Twitter, Square. More and more companies are going to say, well, okay, let me get some exposure. Let me put 1%, 2%. Then as you try to regulate it and put pressure against it, now you've got some powerful enemies. The other thing is, it seems intuitive, but the more money, this is not a fact, this is the way I think about it, but the more money that goes into Bitcoin, actually the more attractive it is to bigger money to get into Bitcoin. Like if Bitcoin had $20 million market cap, no corporations would be taking it seriously. Now that it's getting close to $1 trillion, they're able to say, okay, I could put a small allocation into this just as a hedge against all this money that's losing value. Yeah.
And also, too, once the big boys get in it, it gives further legitimacy and it creates a cycle.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your answers. I'll get off and let some other guys speak, but I appreciate your insights, brothers.
Very, very solid analysis. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Linnell, go ahead, brother.
All right. Hey, how y'all doing today?
Doing great, brother. How's everything?
All right. All right. Diane, I mentioned this before. We mentioned how when Nigeria first came, the news first came when Nigeria, quote unquote, banned the digital currency. And I mentioned that Nigerians are going to find a creative way to still purchase Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, in particular Bitcoin. And now you're saying this. Nigeria, for Nigeria to do this, they're essentially shooting themselves in the foot, because they're essentially choosing not to take part of a global wave of adoption of this global currency. They're choosing to stay isolated, to go in the corner, close the blinds and just stay to themselves and not do trade with throughout the country. As time goes on and as crypto, in particular Bitcoin, gets adopted over the next couple of years via this wave. So I've said that the Nigerians and any other country around the world that try to ban cryptocurrency, their citizens are going to find creative ways to still purchase cryptocurrency, because they still have an ear to the main global world news network that says, hey, Bitcoin is going up to $40,000, $46,000, $47,000, and they want a part of that. They're not going to sit idly by. So this was a no-brainer to me.
And like you said, the government is going against the wave of the people. And like I suspect, this policy doesn't seem like it's going to stand, because you're going to have so many people looking to get around it. And it's the wrong side, if you personally ask me. Really, they should have sought to see how they can move with the people as opposed to moving directly against the people, putting a stop gate there, because it's like a dam and most of the water is on the other side. Eventually the dam's going to break. So they should have found creative ways to move with the stream rather than building it up and putting a situation where the people are just going to look to go around the barriers that was set up by removing the banks from the transactions.
Yeah, and with this Kenya Central Bank allocating a percentage of their reserves to crypto, Kenya's shilling has been tanking in value relative to other currencies around the world. And I understand people say, well, Bitcoin is volatile, but what the Kenyan shilling has been doing over the past years to decades, that is volatile. That is volatility.
And there's also arguments as well that the rate is artificially being kept low, and that a lot of Kenyans believe that their currency should actually be stronger than what it currently is. And many are saying that it's the external pressure on the currency to put it in a certain position relative to other world currencies. That's creating the situation where people are saying, you know what, we're better off moving around. Once again, you have to remember that the note instrument is locked to the geographical position and the policies of that particular geographical area. So now, like you said, in Kenya, if there are problems in Kenya and the currency isn't really where it's supposed to be, and that's affecting people adversely, you now look to the global currency, if you will, or the crypto market, where you're not geographically regulated. The policies of the particular area that you're in don't affect you as directly as being under a certain nation and the policies of the CBN or external forces on the nation. You have to remember, in Africa, there are various factors creating what we currently see, the heavy adoption of cryptocurrency. So, for example, and I just talked about this, is in the West African nations that were colonized by the French. To an extent, a lot of them see that the currency isn't necessarily a currency that's fully owned and controlled and printed within the African continent. Therefore, they see cryptocurrencies as a way to bypass using a currency that they don't necessarily see as their currency, and rightfully so. For example, in Nigeria, like you noted, the fluctuations. The currency is volatile. The crypto market and cryptocurrencies are generally marked and characterized by volatility, but many of them are on an upward trajectory, an upward trend. And some of the currencies in Africa don't have the same upward trend. So when you put your money in certain banks and certain accounts and certain currencies, you'll come back and it hasn't really appreciated any value. In fact, it may be worth only 50% of what it was worth when you put it in there years later, which means that it becomes really difficult to save in a situation, because in 1995, 10,000 naira was a lot of money. Right? That was a good amount of money in 1995. However, you fast forward to 2015 or even what we're seeing now in 2020, 10,000 naira, it's not that much money, right? So imagine if your savings were just 10,000 naira and you wake up from a coma and you go, you know that, all right, well, let me go rent a house and maybe buy a car and furnish that flat that I'm going to get with that 10,000 naira. You would be greatly disappointed in what you're able to actually purchase with it. So cryptocurrencies, the crypto market, the global currency became and has become a very attractive option.
Right, because that inflation has essentially robbed people of their life work, people of, like you said, their savings account. You work all this time thinking that, okay, the money I saved and I put in this bank account. We've all been taught to save. Essentially, essentially, you've been robbed of your wealth, as inflation is, depending on the country, is X amount of percent per year, on top of whatever taxes that you pay when you purchase things after you get taxed from the government. So now with Bitcoin, in particular Bitcoin, you have a deflationary asset, which means your spending power is increased year over year. Over the past 10 years, Bitcoin has increased 200% year over year. Not saying that that's going to continue for the next 10 years, but the story is,
but at least currently it's on an upward trajectory. And if your currency is on a downward trajectory, it only makes sense, because what you can do is you can take your money and currently, certain cryptocurrencies are on upward trend. You put your money there. So even when your nation's currency goes down, you can always double back and buy more of your nation's currency with the cryptocurrencies by simply putting it there and then bringing it back out when you need it. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, right. So this year you can buy X amount with Bitcoin. Next year you can buy more with Bitcoin. Conversely, if you hit that same,
not even years, sometimes a month. Sometimes within a month you'll get a great return.
Right, but I'm saying
you don't have to wait that long.
Comparatively to that person's of origin's currency, their sovereign currency, the next year you will be able to buy less and less, opposed to Bitcoin the very next year with the same amount of money, you'll be able to buy more and more. That's a definition of inflation versus deflation. And what Bitcoin has been acting is as a deflationary currency. And now people are starting to understand, oh, this is what people have been talking about all the time. But yeah, good. Yeah, good talk.
All valid points. Well, no, thank you for your contribution. All valid points.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, now appreciate it, brother. All right, Josiah, my brother Josiah, go ahead. Josiah.
Can everybody? Yo,
Yo, yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, I really enjoyed it. Talk, the conversation, and all the money making schemes that is being discussed. But I wanted to make it very clear that I'm coming from the perspective of engineering and technology. So I'm not looking at the individual wealth created. I'm looking at Africa as a nation, like as one particular root of a tree with many branches. So my angle is looking at the technology itself. You can reach a conclusion that this is pretty much an entrant focusing on emerging markets to be able to capture them before they can go into the digital era that's here with us. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's more or less it's more or less based on speculations, and it attracts a lot of young folks. I've heard somebody talk about the population in Africa being 70% people under 40, and that is so true. And what is going on in
Well,
Africa?
under 25, under 25,
Under 25,
70,
so
25, yes.
75%. Okay, so what's going on is these people are impoverished. They have difficulties in being able to have necessity, bare necessities of life. So what do the people, the power victors, do? This technology came from not from Africa, okay, and nobody thought about the mining aspect of it, how it will impact the Africans. Nobody thought about that. They came up with it. It's a good idea. And the question is, we Africans, we're not asking, why did they come up with it? So 2008, we know what happened with the financial institutions. They come up with that to help the situation. So it could be a stable way of transferring value from one person to the other, possibly with or without the banks. And again, there's been a focus on cryptocurrency lately because of the paper put out by NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology, about the fact that we do not have any more security in the internet since the public key infrastructure, the math that is used to hold the information, every information out there online, is no longer viable. Therefore, they called it back and they notified every entity of this danger. Now, look at our people. We're not looking at the right handwriting on the wall. He's just like when we were colonized and some of us were enslaved. It's the same method. So the oppressor knows the strategies. He's visionary, and he has the resources and wherewithal to make things happen. What we're talking about here and now is all about securing information. Crypto, look at the name, cryptography. Check the dictionary definition of cryptography. It will tell you. That's what it is. So this has been built with the hope that it will protect our information. And now, what are we facing? There's quantum computer coming out. There's attack in the United States. There's so much stuff happening. Every one of you knows that. And cryptocurrency possibly is not the way unless the Africans build their own version and swap it for what is out in the West. I have talked.
Yeah, you know, it's always better to have your own. You're absolutely right. It's always better to have your own.
Exactly.
And continue.
So to make a long story short, new technologies, they are awesome, they are great, but they usually benefit those that created it. So
all right, let me ask you a question. Let me. You're a very informed brother, and I like hearing your perspective. Now, let's use Bitcoin for example. This will let me know a lot about your perspective. Who do you believe created it? Bitcoin, not cryptocurrency, but just Bitcoin.
The Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin is an application of the whole blockchain cryptocurrency, if you would like to have that word used. Bitcoin is created by, is the application of Satoshi Nakamoto, and so on and so forth. I don't know exactly who did it, but what we are getting, the news we are getting, and the documents readily available, is saying that. However, being from the engineering science background, I know that technology.
Oh no, I was asking you what you believe. I was asking you what you believe, not what the pervasive.
What I believe. I believe a group of people came up with that, and it has a lot to do with power that we cannot readily point to or are in liberty to talk about. And the whole purpose of creating it is to achieve what it's doing right now. The whole purpose of it is to bring to the RAN the emerging markets, without the emerging market knowing that they have been converted. Because the danger in cryptocurrency is that those
when you say converted to what exactly? You say without knowing that they've been converted to what?
They are being converted in the sense that their money is controlled by the shift in the finance, whether you believe it or not.
Let me ask you a question. Who do you believe controls cryptocurrencies?
I'm not at liberty to talk about it, but I do know some things that can.
Why is everybody so secretive today? Why is
everybody so secretive? Come on, I'm curious.
Because the world is run by people that are very powerful, and they get rid of you for releasing certain information. So you have to be very careful, even if you cannot prove it or you know it, because there are people that are oracles. They know things that are not usual.
Here's the only issue is that a lot of people are watching currently, and a lot of people will watch the playback. And so if somebody's watching this, they're looking at you, expecting you to give information. Now, if you don't give the information, then you're all of a sudden essentially you're talking, but you're never getting to the point. That's the point.
I'm getting it to the point, but you have to listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
just take out the parts that you believe you don't want to speak about, and just speak directly to the parts that you believe you're at liberty to discuss.
Yes, what I'm saying is very simple. Individuals are trading in cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and they're making money. That's fine. However, a nation state using the state funds and putting it in cryptocurrency is very dangerous. Why?
And what state is actually doing that? What state is actually doing that?
I'm just saying that if any nation state decides
it wouldn't be in the interest of most of the central banks to do that. Have you been watching since the beginning of this broadcast?
No, I haven't been watching.
I'll explain briefly. You have to remember that most of the central banks aren't actually too thrilled about cryptocurrency because it's peer-to-peer. And you're essentially moving them from their historical position that they fought long and hard to establish. And
actually, cryptocurrency is not peer-to-peer.
Let me just explain. So now, what many of the central banks are looking to do is they're looking to go with digital currencies, which are essentially their version of their brand of cryptocurrency. But once again, I hate to use that word because cryptocurrencies are typically characterized by being peer-to-peer and bypassing the large institutions. While digital currencies, which are mostly coming from the central banks of many nations, they're looking to debut these, and they've been talking about releasing these rather soon in order to get on the wave. So, for example, if you look at what China did, China initially banned cryptocurrencies, or they did what Nigeria did, and then they realized they couldn't stop the wave. So now the government came out with their own digital currency. And they had an app, and on the app, there was like a lottery, and you receive a certain number, and you could spend it on certain things. You couldn't buy gold, you couldn't buy other currencies, and they regulated it. And that is the future that they would like to see, is a future where they control the digital currencies. So most central banks aren't going to be too thrilled with cryptocurrencies because by nature, cryptocurrencies are removing them from the transaction. That's why many are looking to come out with their version of the digital of a digital currency. That's why I said there's a difference between cryptocurrency and digital currency. But brother, to summarize, so we're not here too long. What in a sentence or two is your question?
I do not have a question. My concern is the fact that some people are making a delivery on cryptocurrency as something stable, and all Africans should engage in involvement in it. I disagree with that. I vehemently will like to stress the point that it's very dangerous. It is a nascent technology, and that technology is a foothold of Industry 4.0 to get us into the system perpetually. And it's dangerous. For us to go into cryptocurrency or use such currencies, it has to be our development. We must not arrest our development. There's a new paradigm shift. We should be able to do it because we have really smart people, people that have patents upon patents in this technology. We have to organize and have our own system. And through atomic swapping, we can exchange with the West. If not, we'll be lost forever. And this is so true. Cryptocurrency is not secure. They lie to you. The public and private key that you get, once you get it, common sense tells us when you get it, there's a copy wherever it came from. Because if there's no copy where it came from, you won't get it. And nothing on the computer is deleted.
Understandable.
Hey,
Right? That's
one
a
second,
very
one second, Ebube, one second. So, Josiah, are you saying that fiat is a better, like, so what's a better solution? You saying fiat is the better?
A better solution is our own solution. It's
Okay.
a solution based on post-quantum cryptography. The reason why they call it cryptocurrency is they are trying to tell you that you cannot hack into this money, but it's not true because the technology is based on, if you check NIST on the Google right now, go to NIST and check what they say about PKI, public key infrastructure. That's what it's based on. And that is broken. The math is no longer good. Why? Because it's a human abstraction, and a computer can solve it better than humans. When it's a matter of logic, computers are better than humans. And now we have quantum computers that's going to come out by November. And I'll be the first to buy it anyway. So we are living in a very precarious time. We should be very careful not to get into technologies that we did not build. This is the time for us to start building all our stuff.
I'll stop you there. What I'll say is that you just have to play the game smart. So, for example, and this isn't financial advice, but if you want to take the advice for what it is what it is. Now, you can make a lot of money. You can make tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars trading crypto. So if you can use it to empower yourself to get money, to maybe start a business or doing something else, don't be afraid. Don't live life with fear. Right? Know what you're getting into. If it's the topic, or it seems like it's too much, if the water seems too deep, don't put your toe in it. But I wouldn't advise everybody to not go swimming. What I'll say is this: only go swimming if you know what you're doing. I personally, for example, my portfolio is 5 to 12% crypto on any given day, and it serves me well. And what I do is I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it served me well. So you can use it as a stock, but it's nothing to be afraid of. Don't live your life with fear. Just go and know what you're doing, have an objective, get in, get out.
I'm not telling anybody not to play the game, the speculative game of cryptocurrency. What I'm saying is I'm coming from engineering technology perspective. I'm saying that we have to hold off heavy use of cryptocurrency. I posted that on my LinkedIn.
When you say use in what capacity? For example, I've described it being used as a stock, and that's pretty basic, pretty common. Most people are using cryptos as a stock. They're essentially putting their money in. So, for example, in Africa, most people who do trade are using that to prevent harsh inflation of their money and wiping out their savings. That's actually a great way to use it. And once I said, there's the danger of one story. You might say, oh, this is dangerous. I don't get it. It's not my generation. Let me just tell other people.
I'm saying
what we have to say is this. You have to just know what you're saying. You have to know what you're saying. You have to know what you're doing. So now if you know what you're doing, you're okay. Have a game plan for anything that you do. If you're going to put your money anywhere, have a game plan. Everything has its inherent risks. Everything has its inherent upsides and its inherent downsides. If you just look at the downsides, that's cool too. Nobody's saying that those aren't true, but there are also upsides. Those are true as well. Just know what you're doing. But I do agree with you on the point that there should be more indigenous cryptocurrencies. We shouldn't be quick to adopt and adapt everything in Africa when we can create our own. So I do agree we should create our own, if anything. But at the same time, for those who want to use the traditionally established currencies as a way to save money and make some money in the process, there's nothing wrong with that, and you shouldn't fear that at all.
Yeah, the last note is you should fear everything about cryptocurrency. One hack, all the cryptocurrencies are done for. One hack.
Well,
That's
the
what
thing is, if you put your money in a
I'm
bank,
not here
listen,
to argue. Pay attention
but just
to my
listen.
statement.
Put your money in a bank.
If
It's the same
cryptocurrency is
situation.
hacked, all the money are done. You have 51% to rule over a confirmed legit transaction. Once that number is reached, they can reverse all of that. That's what I'm trying to tell the people that are listening. I'm not saying don't play the game. Life is a risk, but I'm talking from a technology part. I'm not here to rap or sound great. I'm telling critical point that need to be observed by all. Those building technology, those developing nation states, watch out. It's just bunch
Let
of
me ask
kids,
you a question. Have you made any money off
one
of
second,
cryptocurrency?
bunch of kids in the basement, they hack into the system, it's done. It's over. That's it.
Let me ask you a question. Have you made any money off of cryptocurrencies? Just simple yes or no. I don't want to know how much. Yes or no?
I build cryptocurrency.
Wait,
I would not support. I would not support any other cryptocurrency except for the one that I build. Period.
So that's a no. So that's a no.
You can ask Dynex. I've been promoting this for longest. I have 5 patents about this particular technology. I'm not here to play around. I was relaxing at home and I heard you guys preaching cryptocurrency. I was like, this is dangerous because African youths, they copy a lot. Hearing this is like, are you serious? That's playing into the hand of the man.
Listen, some people are in the crypto market for personal gain. I myself am one of them. I've got a pretty substantial amount. You just got to know what you're doing. But once again, listen, if it's
I bought them initially. I bought Ethereum. I bought all of them. But I got rid of them because I just started the technology.
You didn't make Ethereum. I just caught you right there. But
No. I built technology. I bought them.
Cryptocurrency.
I bought all of them, but I don't have any more right now. I'm sure if I check some of my accounts, I probably have.
You're mad that you sold them too early. So you're mad that you sold them too early, and you're seeing where
no. I don't. I was studying. I was studying the technology. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to me. I'm trying to tell you that I studied this technology. I bought them when initially, way back 9 years ago. I bought them. I studied this technology, and I learned a lot from them. That's why I'm able to talk about them the way I talk about them. I understand them very well.
You brought up something interesting. I also do patents as well. What type of patents did you get? Did you get PCT? Did you get what type of patents did you get on those 5?
It's utility.
And what type of patent did you get on the software?
Utility is non-provisional utility.
Okay, non-provisional, and all 5 are out of the. They're out of the.
So you have 20 years of expiration. I probably will sell one of them.
You might want to go PCT. You might want to, but that's neither here nor there. But that's interesting. I definitely like to know more about the cryptos that
I'm open to discussing. I'm open to discussing interesting subjects, and I think that we live in a very interesting times. You have the technology margin with the people and the process, and we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we're being ruled over by this technology, while in fact we can build them. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, true. Like you said, you've built them, and that's going to be the natural progression. That's going to be the natural step. The way Africa is adopting cryptocurrency, eventually, like Akon is already building one. Akon already built the A coin, the African coin.
He's building with the system, the failing system. You're not paying attention. He's building with the system that's already failing. And you're a smart guy. When they tell us the system is no good, they already got something better. And Akon is building on something that is no good. That's what I'm saying. It's always the problem with it.
That's an interesting opinion on it.
It's not just an opinion. You can go to NIST website and see it for yourself. Right there. They're not hiding it. They told everybody that. That's it.
But all I'm saying is, look, you shouldn't have a spirit of fear. All I'm saying is that this is have a strategy. If you're going to use, like, for example, most people in Africa, like I said, they just use it to store their money in a place where they're not going to wake up one day and all their money has been halved because of a central bank policy or a devaluation.
They lose it too. They lose it too. Do you know about the mining attacks?
Let me just finish, please. Now, here's the thing: is that you personally have a different experience. That's cool, right? And as you stated, you bought some Ethereum, I believe, and it didn't work out for you. So that also
I
covers
never
your
said it
expense.
didn't work out for me. Listen carefully.
Money. I asked you if you made money.
I don't play that kind of games. I studied technology. I studied no, don't go being a lawyer on me. Don't go being a lawyer on me. He's trying to be smart. He's trying to be a lawyer on me. I'm a technology builder. I'm telling you, I studied technology. I can spend money to know what you are doing. I spend money for information. I want to know how that system works. I go buy it. I sign up for it. And I get the information. And I move on. And that's how I advance technology.
All right, Josiah, brother, look, we got to bring on the last caller, man. But we appreciate you coming on, bro. Oh, Mufasa did. Okay.
He's trying to be a lawyer.
All right, but Josiah, appreciate you coming on, man.
All right, thanks, man.
All right,
nice talking to you, man. Pleasure.
All right, Ebube, we'll go ahead and I guess Mufasa doesn't want to call in, so Ebube, we'll go ahead and close out.
Got good questions too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. There's, this is a topic where everyone has they've been loading up their perspectives, and it's good because we got a wide array of perspectives. Not sure why everybody was so secretive. Okay, here we go. Mufasa. Hey, what's going on, brother?
Last caller. Mufasa.
What up, Dennis? What up, Ebube?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah, it's Borgen for me. Can you guys hear me clearly?
We hear you.
I hear you perfectly.
All right, cool. So yeah, well, I wanted to call in and say, I've seen a couple of people talking about we should, be wary of the technology because we don't control the technology and things like this. The first thing, we get really technophobic in our community, and the first thing we have to realize is that technology is nothing new. Right? The car you're in is technology. The wheel that's in the car is technology. The combustible engine is technology. The internet that we're speaking over right now is technology. All these things are technology, and they contain aspects created by many other different people, and they don't stop us from using it to our benefit. Right? So the idea of
yeah, he got that. That's that Metro PCS. So we'll go ahead and close out. That's probably why he kept dropping off. So Ebube, we'll go ahead and close out, bro.
Yeah, I'll just finish on what I believe Mufasa was going to finish on. I'll take his points. There's no need to fear new technology. Try to get ahead of it, and always in anything you do, turn it into a tool for your empowerment.
Right.
So every other culture, what they do when they find something new, they ask themselves, how can this be used as a tool for our empowerment? How can this be used to further us as a culture? So Africans need to be asking the same thing, because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is empowerment. So every single tool that you pick up, you want to ask yourself, how can this be used for my empowerment? If it has no use, disregard it and discard it, because there's nothing that can come from it. So in regards to the ban that the government's come out with recently, it seems like it's against the flow of the people, and they may backstep on it. It seems some people have already come out from the government to state their feelings contra to the actual policy. But we'll see how this thing develops. Of course, it's just a policy, and we'll see how it goes from there. Make sure you go to Up Close and Center and subscribe. I'm releasing new material tomorrow morning. It's called The Lingua Franca, and then I'm releasing 2 more documentaries in quick succession that I've been working on. One is called African Scar Tissue, and then the other one is called The Freest State. So The Freest State, African Scar Tissue, and Lingua Franca, those 3 are being released in pretty close succession, and they're going to be, people are going to really like those. So thank everybody for their time, and Dynas, you got it.
Hey, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you subscribe to Brother Ebube's YouTube channel, Up Close and Center. Go to dynasmir.com. Until next time, family. Dollar Will is Up Close and Center. Dollar Will, Up Close and Center. Until next time, family. Dynasty Mirror, search for Huru. Peace.